In 1908, the biggest explosion in recorded history hit Siberia. And it took over 80 years to understand what actually happened. Welcome to Episode 3, the Tunguska Siberian Explosion. The largest explosion in recorded history left no crater and no meteorite. In 1908, something flattened 2,000 square kilometers of Siberian forest. The shockwave crossed continents. Instruments picked it up as far away as Washington, D.C. For nights afterward, the sky over Europe glowed bright enough to photograph at midnight. And for 19 years, nobody from outside ever reached the detonation zone. What levels of forest the size of a city, and then simply vanishes. The Stony Tunguska River runs through central Siberia. The land around it is barely visible on maps. The only people living there were Evenki herders, moving with their reindeer through the boreal forest. Then came the morning of June 30th, 1908, just after 7 o'clock. A bluish-white light crossed the sky. So bright, the newspapers called it impossible to look at. 65 kilometers away, a man named Semenov watched the sky split in two, resulting in a massive fire engulfing the forest. He said the heat was so fierce it felt like his shirt was on fire. Then a strong shock wave threw him meters through the air. Closer in, an Evenki man named Chuchan was thrown into his campfire. He remembered a second son and 5 thunder. The nearest Evensky families lost entire reindeer herds, and as many as 3 people may have died. Seismographs shook across Eurasia, matching a magnitude 5 earthquake. 2 days later, the newspaper Sibir reported a bright body shaped like a pipe descending for 10 minutes in the sky. It took 19 years for anyone to reach the blast zone, and what they found made no sense. The 19-year silence wasn't a cover-up. It was history getting in the way. A world war, 2 revolutions, and a civil war swallowed Russia before any scientist could reach central Siberia. In 1921, a mineralogist named Leonid Kulik finally tried. He never even got close due to the impossible terrain. In 1927, he came back and Kulik became the first outsider to stand at ground zero. He expected a crater and an iron core worth a fortune. Instead, he found trees at the center, still standing. Scorched, stripped of every branch, but somehow still upright. Around those trees lay tens of millions more, flattened, all pointing outward like spokes on a wheel. And at the middle of it all, no crater, nothing. It didn't make sense. He spent months draining a promising bog, certain the meteorite lay at the bottom. He found a tree stump. 3 more expeditions over the next decade turned up nothing. Not one spaceborne fragment. And with no evidence, the theories turned into legends. The first theory was the reasonable one. A comet. Ice could vaporize away to nothing, and its dust might explain those glowing night skies. But no comet fragment ever turned up either, and the questions remain. In 1965, physicists proposed antimatter in the journal Nature. A speck of it could erase an entire region, like Tunguska. However, carbon measurements near the site were nominal, debunking this theory. 1973 brought the boldest claim yet, a miniature black hole punching straight through the Earth. But a black hole would have blasted out through the North Atlantic, and the 1908 records show nothing there. This brings us to the two most outrageous theories. The first, an alien spaceship, an idea you can date to a single 1946 Soviet science fiction story. Written a year after Hiroshima, it imagined a Martian craft detonating over Siberia. It was 100% fiction. Then there's the Tesla death ray, the newest myth of them all. This theory first appeared in a magazine article in January 1990. It claimed that the blast was in fact a science experiment gone wrong from Nikola Tesla. That claim was false, too. And over time, new tools reopened the investigation. Additional expeditions found microscopic beads in the soil, nickel-rich, the fingerprint of rock from space. In the 60s, Soviet teams mapped every fallen tree. The pattern? A giant butterfly, 70 kilometers across. They then built miniature forests out of matchsticks and started setting off charges. Only one arrangement reproduced the butterfly. And it wasn't a rock hitting the ground. The only plausible explanation was an explosion suspended in air, detonating above the forest. Imagine a 50 to 80 meter wide space rock, traveling at 55,000 kilometers an hour, exploding in the air. And that is exactly what happened at Tunguska. The rock tore itself apart, 10 kilometers above the forest. The air itself became the weapon. Estimates put the blast near 15 megatons, 1,000 Hiroshimas. The shockwave came straight down, stripping branches, but leaving trunks standing. The meteorite Kulik had chased for decades ended up falling as dust, settling across the blast zone. To add further evidence, in 2013, a smaller rock burst over Chelyabinsk. This time, instruments caught everything. Scientists ran millions of simulations against that data, and the Tunguska evidence matched perfectly. Which famous mystery do you suspect was invented after the fact? Drop a comment below to share your theory. Also, if you have made it this far and I have earned it, please like the video as it helps the channel grow. The truth beats every myth every time. A rock the size of a building, stopped dead by nothing but air. This strange case file is closed, and the truth remains. See you at the next one.